Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. I implore all of you to go to the Montreal Gazette website. When you're on the website, you're going to go into the top right corner. There's a button called subscribe, and you subscribe and you pay for the journalism at the Montreal Gazette because it's exceptional. And chief among those reasons to subscribe is our next guest, Aaron Derfel, health reporter with the Montreal Gazette, and he is on the line. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, good morning, Elias.
Listen, it's great to talk to you again. We got a couple of things to get to this morning. Your reporting from this week. First things first, Santé Quebec and representation for patients on the board of directors at Santé Quebec. What's happening here? Where does the government stand? And tell me about the pushback.
Yes, so, there are these patient rights groups that are attached to hospitals to ensure that that patients get the best care possible and to help with the filing of complaints, etc. And under Bill 15, initially, the government was going to get rid of all of these patient rights groups across the province, and this is something that horrified these groups. So they really had to fight. And the good news is that this commission that is studying Bill 15 has made these amendments to restore these committees, and that's a good thing. But the bad news is that they want a seat at the table or on the board of directors of Santé Quebec. This is a new Crown corporation that would be set up at a cost of $60 million over 2 years to run the health system under Medicare. And so it will be overseen by a board of directors. And so someone like Paul Brunet, who is the head of the Conseil pour la protection des malades, he wants, a representative from the patient rights community to sit on that board, but that's just not going to happen. So, he was telling me that they've made some gains, or rather they're fighting to keep what they used to have before this reform was introduced.
Now, I'm trying to think, why wouldn't the government want a patients' rights group to have a seat at the table on the board of directors? If I'm the government and I'm trying to convince people that, hey, we need to do things differently, we've done it the wrong way, we need to fix the healthcare system, wouldn't it add credibility if you gave one seat on the board to patients? It doesn't seem like one seat would change votes. So what's the reason the government's giving for not doing that?
I think it's control. This under Bill 15, this board of directors by Santé Quebec, they would choose someone, I think, from the patient rights community, but it's the patient rights community that wants to do it on its own initiative, and so it's just control. This is one of the overriding concerns that people have about this reform, is that it's over centralization, and it's just controlled by the CAC government. This is a theme that's running. You'll see that you recall that Ben André, the education minister, again, he wants to give more control to the education ministry to run school boards and the centre scolaire. So that's what I think it is ultimately. That would be the ulterior motive.
And if it's about control, should the Anglophone community be extra concerned about these changes? Because when there's centralization and control, it seems like Anglophone voices are further and further away from decision making.
Absolutely, Elias, because you have it's a big issue across Quebec, and this might ultimately have more far-reaching consequences than the regulations that were imposed after Bill 96 was adopted. When it comes to healthcare for Anglophones, especially elderly Anglophones, they want to receive care in the last few years of their lives in English. And previously, or right now, you have these so-called language access programs that are drafted and maintained by Anglo representatives who are attached to these boards of directors across the province, and that's going to be eliminated. It'll be Santé Quebec, or rather the board of directors of Santé Quebec, that will put in place or be in charge of essentially a single access plan for the whole province. We're talking about access to healthcare in English, not taking into account regional differences, et cetera, and what the resources of various institutions might have. So there are deep concerns that that access to healthcare in English will be eroded, and this was an issue that was raised even before Bill 15. You recall in the Laurentians there were mayors who were raising concerns that hospitals were losing their bilingual status, and the Legault government did not show much sympathy for those concerns, and so you're going to see this continuing erosion, and I think ultimately that might have a worse of an impact than sort of calling up the city of Montreal and everything is in French.
And now let me ask you, Aaron, as this bill goes through committee on that front, on Anglophone rights and respecting Anglophone rights, has anyone been raising their voice on this subject?
No. Apart from one group, and I wrote about this a few times, there's little interest about it because, you see, this whole bill is so abstract. It contains 1,200 clauses. They've gone through half of it already. The Legault is probably going to invoke closure next month to get it adopted. It's essentially replacing the Health and Social Services Act, and it's so unwieldy. There's so many different aspects to it, and the question of these access programs, it's just not getting the attention it deserves. I haven't seen any news coverage of this apart from what I've been writing about in the last few months.
We're with Aaron Derfel, health reporter with the Montreal Gazette. Wrapping up with Aaron here. And Aaron, let's go somewhere else other than health, because your latest piece for the Montreal Gazette website takes a look at how Jewish-owned businesses in Montreal have been targeted with anti-Semitism, and there's boycott lists circulating on social media. Can I ask you, how difficult was it to do that story?
Well, it was difficult from a journalistic point of view. It was difficult because the business owners don't want to. They don't want the attention. And so they don't want to go on the record. So I had a lot of very shocking images that, from a journalistic point of view, you would want to show right on Twitter and on our website. But the business owners are fearful that this will identify obviously their businesses, and they might attract more people, more protests, more vandalism, and they just don't want that. They want this to go away. Our editor Lenny Lucci and I felt that this is an important story and it had to be told.
Can I ask you if in all your years, have you seen anything like this? Seen this type of hate? Any other instance?
Well, taken together, all of this, what's been happening, the firebombing of a synagogue and the shooting through the windows and entrances of Jewish day schools, one yeshiva twice in 2 weeks, and then the vandalism of these Jewish-owned businesses. No, I cannot recall a similar period in my 35 years as a journalist here in Montreal. It's quite sad. Yeah,
Aaron, I would agree. Sad is one way to put it here. Got to leave it there, Aaron. Listen, thanks for coming on. Keep fighting the good fight with all your hats there at the Gazette, and I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Aaron Derfel right there, health reporter with the Montreal Gazette. He's a must-follow, by the way, on Twitter and X, whatever it's called, as well.